Okay, let's talk about the concept of subset. Let's see if we can get this going in R. So this means that B is a subset of A, and we say that B is a subset of A if every element in B is also an element in A. So this is the picture. We have B inside of A. So every element of B is also in A. Then B is a subset of A. And this is the universal set, means like the kind of context. So let's take a look at this. Here we have a set A, and we have a set B. And here we're using a new operator. So one thing about this operator is it's nearly impossible to Google it. You can't find it if you try to look in Google. Google doesn't know how to search for this, so it's really troublesome to learn, to figure out what it is. But here's a question from Stack Overflow. It says, what are operators like this called, and how can I learn about them? So the person asks the question, I know the basics like this and this. So this is, we saw as the equal operator. And this, by the way, is the not equal operator. So whenever this produces true, this will produce false. And whenever this produces false, this will produce true. Or even the difference between, okay, we didn't talk about that yet, but this and this are difficult. So he says, someone says you can search for them in R like this. So maybe that's one way to look for it. But you have to put the quotes around it like that. And let's even try that. So let's try that here. And it's called matching here, right? So someone down here identifies them as infix operators. And he says you can check here in the R documentation, infix and prefix operators, with an explanation also here. It says infix just means that it's between two operands, as opposed to prefix or postfix, which means at the beginning or the end. So this is a prefix and subscript here. Well, we won't worry about that, but this one means it comes at the beginning, and this means that it comes in between. And apparently this has to do with writing your own functions as well. So anyway, it's basically the same thing as the match function. And it says this is a more intuitive interface as it is a binary operator. So what that means, binary operator means you can put one thing on the left of it and one thing on the right of it, which is what we're doing when we look at this. So we have B on the left side and A on the right side. Now, before we go back to the RStudio explanation, which is bigger, B or A? Which has more elements? So B is 1 through 5, and A is 1 through 8 plus cat and dog. So B is smaller. Now, what happens when you run this? Let's just look at it. So it has to do, we're using it like having to do related to this slide on subsets. So is B, which of the B's are in A? Okay, so that's basically what it's doing. It's saying which of the B's are in A. So how many elements do we get back? Do we get 5 back, or do we get 10 back? A has 10, B has 5. But when we do this, do we get 5 back or 10? we get 5 results back here. So keep that in mind. So what is it doing? It's saying, is the first element of B in A? Is the second element of B in A? Is the third? So it doesn't give me, it's not going to give me 10 results because there are only 5 questions that it's asking. It's only asking which of the things here are in here. It's not asking which of the things here are in here. So since there are only 5 things here, it's only asking 5 questions. So we're only going to get 5 true falses back. So what about this? Is 1 in A? Yes. What's the next thing in here? 2. Is 2 in A? Yes. Is 3 in A? Yes. Is 4 in A? Yes. Is 5 in A? Yes. So we get true, 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 true. Okay? So that is obviously working towards what we're trying to do, which is get a subset function. But if I just write this, I get that. That doesn't really, I want to get, when I make my subset function, I don't want to get the result to look like this. I just want to know whether B is a subset of A. I want an answer, yes or no, true or false. I don't want this. Okay, so I have to do something with this to get just true, because it is true that B is a subset of A. But so far, when I write this statement, all I get is true, 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 which is on the way to the right answer, or the form of the answer that we want, but this is not the form of the answer that we want. So there's another function called all. And what all does is it checks whether, now, okay, once again, what does this produce? This produces a vector. It produces a Boolean vector, a logical vector, a true-false vector, a bunch of true falses. In this case, all trues. So this produces a vector. This is the same thing. This is a vector of true falses, or a Boolean vector, and this takes as an argument any Boolean vector. So this is a Boolean vector, so I can put this into the all function, and what it does is it says, are all of them true? So if one of them is not true, then the result will be false. There's another function called any, which will test if any of them are true, then it will return true. But this is all, and it tests whether all of them are true, and if so, it reports back true. Remember that what goes in the all function is a Boolean vector. Same thing with any. What goes in an any function is a Boolean vector. Anyway, the all function works for us here, and it says, are all of these true? If it is, if they are, then we get true back. And now we can use all of this, or use this, to determine that B is a subset of A. Now just to remind you, when we write B on the left and A on the right of this infix with in between these two percentage signs, then it's not giving us an answer with the number of replies equal to the length of A. It's giving an answer, the number of replies of which is equal to the length of B. So is the first one in here, is the second one in here, is the third. So there are only 5 questions, we only get 5 back. And we put that into all, and we get an answer of true. So with this simple statement, or somewhat simple statement, we can now make a subset for vectors function. So I call it subset for vectors. So given 2 vectors, determine whether the first one is a subset of the second one. So what do? Let's call the first one the smaller one. Well, it doesn't have to be smaller, but I'm going to call it smaller. And the second one is larger. And what do I want to do? I just want to put smaller and larger in here for B and A. So smaller in larger and all around that, and return that. And so that's going to return either true or false, depending on whether the smaller one is in the larger one. So this is another way of using the match function. So if we went back to R, we'd see that you could run the match function in the same way, but they say that this is kind of more intuitive interface. If you look at the match function, you could do match, this would be B, and this would be A. And then these are other parameters which we haven't talked about this, but these are other parameters, and we did talk about default values for parameters, and these have default values. So there's something called no match, which has a default value of this, and there's another parameter called this, and it has a default value of that. You could change the default values if you want, but you don't have to. So if you wanted to run this function match in the same way that we're using it, all you'd have to do is specify B here and A here, and just close the parentheses. It would assume these values already, which should work. And you could just run it. In other words, what I'm saying is you could run it so what we have is for matching, match BA, here's B and here's A, and match BA says that is this in B, and if so, where? So is this in B, is this in A, and if so, where? So is this in A? Yes. And where is it? It's in the first position. So that's why we get 1 here. Okay, what about this? Is this in A? And if so, where? And so we get it's in the second position. Okay, so that's kind of obvious, but going up to here, is this in A? Yeah, and if so, where? It's in the first position, so we get a 1 here. Okay, anyway, that's the match function, but we can do this one. This one, and we get that. So I think I got a little bit confused here because the B's and A's are a little different than what they are in the PowerPoint. But looking at B and A here, here's B, here's A. Now we get 10 results because B is of length 10. In the PowerPoint, I think it was only of length 5. But here B is of length 10, so we should get 10 back. And it checks. Is this one in A? Yes, true. This one, yes. 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 We already answered it. This one, yes. Yes. We already answered these. Yes. So we get a vector of length 10. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So finally, we've written this subset vectors function, and we use this match in this way, smaller in larger, and then we applied all to that. So if they're all true, then that's when we want to say that B is a subset of A, and so this will work. And we try it here, and it works. If we try our subset vectors AB, where A is this and B is this, it shouldn't work, and it doesn't work. Okay, you could test the inner workings of this with A and B by putting A here, B here, and checking all. You'll see it doesn't work. It doesn't. It's not true. Okay, that is subset. Next we want to do intersection, but I'll stop here.